Hey guys, this is Marcus with Push Square, and in this video series, I'm taking a deeper look at the photo modes of various PS4 exclusive games in an attempt to capture what makes the perfect photo mode. I'll be looking at things like the depth of camera controls, the available visual filters and overlays, game customization options, lighting capabilities, and any other unique features I find in each game. I've prepared pairs of games for each episode that have similar qualities or thematic elements to more easily contrast the capabilities of each game. So in this episode of Photo Mode Fight, I'm going to be comparing two exclusive action-adventure titles, The Order 1886 and Naughty Dog's acclaimed Uncharted series. The Order was an early 2015 title that received underwhelming reviews, but still holds up really well graphically. Meanwhile, Uncharted is a long-running series that has received massive critical acclaim many times over, and for this video, I'm going to be looking at all the PS4 versions of Uncharted. That includes the Nathan Drake Collection, A Thief's End, and Uncharted Lost Legacy. So to kick things off, let's jump into The Order 1886. Right away, The Order's unique coloring aesthetics and letterbox gameplay become quite intrusive in photo mode. The game's excellent graphics are covered up by heavy filtering effects, but thankfully it's possible to remove and manipulate these settings to a certain degree using photo mode, which you can then lock and apply to gameplay. I actually played through most of this game with filters applied because the game is just so drab otherwise. Unfortunately, the game's claustrophobic letterboxing cannot be removed and remains indefinitely. That said, the actual functionality and options this photo mode provides are quite excellent. It has all the standard camera controls with proper lens values present. The camera also has settings for lens flare, which is great if you want to get some J.J. Abrams style shots, and the autofocus button is also a really great feature. The only other downsides I could point out was that the D-pad controlled panning and crane movements were noticeably slower than just flying the camera around using the analog sticks. As well, applying new filters reset some of your camera settings such as exposure and film grain when you first apply them. On that note though, this game has some of the most unique filters that I've seen so far, some of which change pretty dramatically with different intensity values. Like for example, the Seeing Red filter turns blue at lower intensity, so these filters give you a lot of room to play with them, and they give you a lot more options than most games. The excellence of this photo mode doesn't end there either. The camera in this game is unparalleled in its freedom and draw distance. The camera can fly literally anywhere in the currently loaded level or area. What I mean is you can fly pretty much anywhere you can go as the player. In regular gameplay, you can even fly ahead in a level, or in some cases you can go past the boundaries in certain outdoor sections of the game. And photo mode even allows you to move the camera during cinematic actions like melee attacks or even in death animations. In addition to this camera freedom, you can also hide character models if you want to capture photos of the game world. And the only situation I found where the game restricts camera movement is during QuickTime event segments. And just as a last note here, you can change Galahad's outfit during most chapters, but the game only has two pretty samey outfits that were only released with special editions anyway, so those options are pretty much useless. In general, I was really impressed with this photo mode. Once you get past the game's heavy default visual filters, there's a very rich and deep photo mode underneath, especially with its ridiculous draw distance and camera freedom. Now on to the other side of this comparison. Again, I'm going to be running through all of the Uncharted games, starting off with the Nathan Drake Collection here. And with this trilogy of remasters, it very quickly becomes apparent that these games were never meant to have a photo mode. The graphics, especially with characters' faces, are often really rough graphically and don't match the context of the scene or gameplay properly. It's most apparent in Uncharted 2, especially with the enemies. I think this is because Uncharted 2 probably received the least attention graphically in this remaster. But anyways, all three games have the same photo mode. It's got all the camera controls you'd expect. Overlay options are fine. Some are really terrible and useless. Filters and vignette features don't work correctly, often creating jarring results. A huge plus with these remasters though is that you can use any skin from the trilogy at any time. Just some other small issues that I found. You can't move or activate the camera in many cinematic moments, even if you are still in control, or even in just sections where there's a slightly modified camera angle. And the render distance is about the same as gameplay. You can't hide character models, so that makes environmental photography quite limiting. Okay, next up let's take a look at Uncharted 4, which honestly doesn't have many changes in comparison to the Nathan Drake Collection. The graphics are much better obviously, the environments are prettier, but the photo mode capabilities are not improved so much. It's got all the same functionalities. A few new options such as motion blur and chromatic aberration are nice features. The overlays are alright. It's about the same amount of variety as the collection, but there's a similar amount of useless ones. And the filters are about the same too. They at least work without messing up your other camera settings. And for some reason in this game you can't change your skin to other characters, which makes it a lot more challenging to get pictures of other people other than Nathan Drake. There's also no autofocus button, which is another loss from the remastered trilogy. It's not all bad though. Some other new features that A Thief's End include are the gameplay filters. You can hide character models, and there's an improved draw distance. You can go about 3 times further away from Nathan Drake in this version compared to the remastered trilogy. And the gameplay filters that you can apply to gameplay carry over to photo mode, which gives you a couple more really cool options. Lastly, but definitely not least, Uncharted Lost Legacy really steps things up compared to Uncharted 4. In addition to all the features of its mainline counterpart, Lost Legacy has a new array of filters and overlays, most of which are more creative and useful than in A Thief's End. On top of that, there's a really cool feature where you can move the sun in the game world at any time to create the perfect lighting setup. And for the first time in the series, Naughty Dog added face options for Chloe so you can change her emotions. The available options are not always the right ones, but it's a really good addition nonetheless. Again, similar to Uncharted 4, the draw distance is pretty good in the open world areas, but some of the linear sections restrict you to gameplay camera distance. Lost Legacy for sure is the strongest photo mode in the entire Uncharted series, but I really question the design choice for having to use both analog sticks to activate it. I find this very unintuitive, and especially when you're trying to capture an action shot, having to press L3 and R3 is just really not a good choice. So while the Uncharted series has always been undeniably more critically acclaimed than The Order, but their respective photo mode capabilities are not so obviously ranked. Uncharted has been improving in many respects, but it's also lost some of the flexibility and options it had in earlier titles. In comparison, The Order's free cam capabilities, I would say single-handedly put it in the upper echelon of single-player photo modes. Between these two camera control setups, I'd prefer to use The Order's functionality and filter options, but any one of the Uncharted games has more variety and charm in its game world and characters when compared to The Order's dark and drab London. Well, that's my angle on all this misery. After hearing about these two differing experiences, do you guys think that camera functionality or a varied game world is more important for a good photo mode? Just let me know in the comments, and remember to like this video and subscribe to Push Square. For next time, I'm going to be comparing the photo modes of Drive Club and Gran Turismo Sport. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.